are new to the term EPR or new to Circular Action Alliance as an organization, you're definitely in the right spot. This is our high-level overview for companies that may have obligations to become familiar with the laws, what they contain, and the specific requirements mean for your organization. So we always start our calls with a quick legal disclaimer. CAA is not a law firm, cannot provide legal advice. A lot of what we're going to discuss today touches on regulatory requirements for companies that are subject to EPR laws. CAA is here to provide education and guidance, but ultimately whether your company is subject to these laws is a determination that you and your legal counsel will need to make. And then a quick note on antitrust. CAA is subject to all federal, state, and international antitrust laws. So we'll not be discussing any of the potentially sensitive information you see here on the right-hand side of the screen. And for today's agenda, we're going to walk through EPR, what is it at a high level. We'll talk about Circular Action Alliance, our founding and our mission. Then we'll take a look at extended producer responsibility across the states. Next, we'll provide some updates from the states where CAA is active. And finally, we'll discuss producer registration and look at the next steps for producers. And we'll finish it out with a question and answer session. So what is EPR? At a conceptual level, EPR is a policy approach that shifts financial responsibility for recycling or end-of-life management of a product to the company that produced that material. So we have a number of EPR programs that already operate in the US for products such as mattresses or paint, but EPR programs for paper and packaging are new to the US. That said, around the world, places like Canada and Japan have been operating these packaging EPRs for a number of years. So we've got a lot of knowledge and experience out there to draw from as we build out these programs in the US. These laws require the producer, who is generally the brand owner of a product in the US, to either partially or fully fund the collection, sortation, and processing of paper, packaging, and packaging-like items that they supply into these states. So we'll discuss the exact covered materials a little bit more in later slides, but I want to spend a second on the term producer because it can be kind of tricky to define in terms of extended producer responsibility. Producer may sound like it refers to the manufacturer of the packaging, or you might think it refers to the producer of the product associated with the packaging. However, in most cases, the obligated producer is defined as the brand owner of the product. So in some instances, that may also be the manufacturer, but rarely does does a brand owner also manufacture their own packaging. So if that brand owner does not reside in the US, the obligation may fall then to a licensee, or if there's no licensee, it may fall to the first importer of record. So each law has a specific hierarchy of making these producer determinations. But once the producer is identified, they are then required to fund the cost to manage the end-of-life process for their materials by paying fees or dues that are designed to incentivize design choices that improve recyclability, minimize waste, or improve other environmental outcomes. The incentive is managed through what's called eco-modulation. Examples of the eco-modulation factors would include increased use of recyclable content or switching to reusable packaging. These choices would then result in lower fees. So what's a PRO? A PRO stands for a Producer Responsibility Organization. This is a producer-led nonprofit that helps the producers collectively to meet their EPR obligations. Generally, a PRO has two primary responsibilities. First is to work with producers to build out the compliance infrastructure. So that would include registration, reporting tools, fee schedules for funding the system. And then the PRO also works with state regulatory agencies, the waste recycling sector, and local governments to develop what's called a program plan. The program plan is a holistic plan that outlines how the PRO, on behalf of the producers, will meet the requirements of the EPR law. So once the program plan has been approved by the state regulatory agencies, the plan is then implemented by the PRO using the funding from the obligated producers. Final note on terminology. Some states, such as Maine, refer to pros as stewardship organizations. So, in the context of US EPR laws, a stewardship organization and a pro are going to be the same thing. All right, let's take a look at the various laws across the states. EPR laws have definitely taken off in recent years. As you can see on the map, California, Oregon, Colorado, Minnesota, and Maine have all passed EPR laws. Several other states have taken the first steps towards EPR, but have not yet passed a full law. So Illinois and Maryland are in the process of conducting needs assessment, which will be used to inform the potential future laws in those states. And I believe over the weekend, I actually just saw that Massachusetts is getting ready to start a needs assessment as well. CAA is currently the approved pro for Colorado and California. The Oregon law does allow for multiple pros. However, CAA is the only active pro in Oregon at the moment. And then Minnesota and Maine, they're a little earlier on in their EPR journey, so they've not yet selected their pro or stewardship organization. And finally, in Maryland, CAA is working with the State Advisory Council that'll make recommendations on a future EPR law. So who is CAA? So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We're the first and so far only pro to be approved in a paper and packaging EPR state. We were founded by the 20 companies you see here on the right-hand side of your screen, focused mostly in the food, beverage, consumer packaged goods, and retail industries. And as mentioned previously, we are currently active in California, Colorado, Oregon, and advising in Maryland. So let's talk a little bit about our mission. CAA's mission is to help producers comply with EPR laws, provide a single point of compliance rather than having individual pros for every state. Our goal is to create a single national portal, a national reporting system for producers, and to try to harmonize as much as possible the producer experience across these various laws. At the same time, we recognize that each state has specific operational needs. So we've set up local subsidiary entities that will implement the program plan in each state. So these teams will ensure that we meet all the state specific requirements, that we're fully leveraging the existing infrastructure and collaborating with all the interest holders to successfully implement the EPR laws. All right, and EPR laws across the states. Let's walk through some of the EPR requirements and what's included in each of the laws. Each state has slightly different scope to it. So as you can see in the covered materials column, all 5 states include single-use packaging in the scope of their program. Definition of single-use packaging does vary slightly from state to state, so it's important to refer to each state's definitions to be clear on whether your material is considered in scope. 4 out of 5 of these states explicitly include food serviceware as a separate category. Maine does not have a definition for food serviceware in their program, but some food serviceware might meet the definition of packaging. So again, with food serviceware, definitions vary a little bit, so it's important to review the text of the law. Also, we have some helpful guidance documents on our website. 3 of the 5 states also include printed or writing paper, so Oregon, Colorado, and Minnesota. And this is a pretty significant expansion beyond single-use packaging because this would include flyers, catalogs, paper coupons, etc., that are printed and distributed to consumers. In terms of sectors, all 5 states, as you can see, include consumer-facing packaging. However, California and Oregon also include business-to-business packaging, which in Oregon would include business-to-business paper as well, since printed and writing paper is in scope. So um, that definitely adds a whole nother category of producer, people that may not think that they produce packaging, but do provide catalogs or paper invoices. They could fall under a producer obligation under that level. The Colorado law, there's still some making that's in process, so some B2B packaging may be included in Colorado, but we are working with CDPHE, the regulator, to get further clarification on that. All right, so let's look at the producer obligations across each of the states. All, fi all 5 states require producers to join an approved pro to collect and report data, pay fees or dues based on that data, and potentially redesign material and delivery methods. 2 states, California and Maine, also include a source reduction plan for the use of plastics in their program. And then California and Minnesota both have future recyclability requirements, oh, pardon me, recyclability or compostability requirements for all their materials by 2032. So some notes on those last 2 additional compliance obligations. The mandate that all packaging be recyclable or compostable is an individual compliance obligation. So that means all producers will have to comply with this mandate. The plastic source reduction, however, this is an industry-wide mandate. So that means producers collectively must reduce their use of plastics by 25%, not individually. So this is an initiative that CAA as the pro will work to implement across the producer industry. All right, let's get to some specific state updates. In Colorado, CAA is preparing the first program plan following an extensive consultation process. Program plan is due to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment by February of 2025, and the tentative start date for the Colorado program is January of 2026. In California, CAA is actively engaged with their state regulator, CalRecycle, working on the rulemaking process. Rules are due to be finalized by January 1st, 25 here, coming up shortly, and the program is set to launch in January of 2027. In Oregon, CAA submitted the third and final program plan to the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. Hopefully, see an approval here in the next month or 2. We're working diligently with local communities and governments to understand the system expansion needs and the total associated costs. This is our top priority right now because the Oregon plan is set to officially start in July of 2025. In Maine, CAA has submitted comments on the Maine Department of Environmental Protection's proposed rules. The Board of Environmental Protection has just finalized those rules here last week. So Maine is not expected to select their stewardship organization, which again is what they call their pro, until early 2026. And their implementation timeline is a little bit different. They will have a startup fee that producers have to pay in September of 26, but then fees specifically related to the packaging material won't begin until September of 2027. In Minnesota, the Pollution Control Agency must approve a single probe by January of 2025. CAA is preparing to participate in the Minnesota program. In Maryland, CAA, as we said earlier, is serving to represent producers on the Maryland Producer Responsibility Advisory Council. Recommendations for the future EPR program were due to the governor last week, so I'm sure we'll have more updates on that program here soon. Oh, all right, so next, let's talk about producer registration and preparedness. So here's a high-level look at the producer journey. We've got registration, reporting, payment, and innovation. Registration is pretty straightforward. This is simply signing up with CAA, then signing a participant producer agreement and these further state addendums. We'll discuss in detail a little bit more about this in the next slide. The reporting involves gathering your supply data for the various covered materials, inputting that into a reporting portal. Payments will be based on the amount of each covered material that's reported. And then finally, the eco modulations we talked about earlier will be used to incentivize the redesign of packaging. To support producers, CAA offers a number of tools for the potential producers or just anyone not quite sure if they will be obligated. We host, obviously, these onboarding sessions. These are done just about every week. Sometimes with the holidays, we miss one here or there, but generally every week we're here doing onboarding. Additionally, we have the Producer Resource Center on our website. This is where you can find guidance documents that are designed to help producers understand the EPR laws. Once you've registered with CAA, we do have some additional resources, such as reporting specific guidance, access to our reporting portal, which is going to go live in just about a month here. And then finally, we do some extra deep dive educational sessions in our producer working groups and reporting workshops. And a quick side note, the Colorado law did require obligated producers to be registered with CAA by October 1st this year. So if you're still not 100% sure if you qualify in Colorado, but you think there's a chance you might, we recommend getting registered ASAP. So let's look a little bit more in depth at the registration process. There are three basic steps to registration. First is filling out the registration form on our website. I'm sure we can put a link to that here in the chat. The registration form will ask some basic information, like company name, address, tax ID, a few other things. It'll ask you to identify a primary contact and an authorized representative. The primary contact will be the main point of contact for CAA. So this is the person who should be receiving all the regulatory news, updates, and then the authorized representative is the person who can sign contracts on behalf of your company. These can be two different people, they can be the same person. That either way it works for us. Just a quick note here on the registration form. It does ask a question about estimated US gross revenue. Uh, we understand a lot of privately held companies do not disclose this information. If that's the case for your organization, um, you're fine to enter just like a $1 placeholder. That won't hold up your registration at all. All right, and then after the registration form is submitted, it'll go through a quick validation process, and then we will issue what is called the Participant Producer Agreement, or PPA. The PPA is our basic terms of service contract between the producer and CAA, defines the rights and obligations of both parties, covers pretty standard things like dispute resolution, confidentiality, etc. And I do want to stop here and just clarify that registration, signing the PPA does not obligate a producer to any fees or expense. So there's no cost for being registered with CAA. The only fees are only applied once you begin reporting covered materials to the state program. So that's why if you're unsure of your status or working with your legal team to clarify obligations, we recommend just getting the registration started. There's no cost. We can always inactivate the account later if you determine that you're not obligated. So once the PPA is signed, next will be to sign a state addenda. There'll be one addenda for each of the associated states. They'll kind of follow as the program plans get approved. So with the Oregon program plan just about approved, that'll be the first one that gets issued. Colorado, California will follow subsequently. And just a final note on registration, if you believe you're obligated in multiple states, the registration form does allow you to select states, so you only have to register once. All right, now let's review the implementation timeline. So first major deadline coming up here at the end of Q1 on March 31st is the reporting for the Oregon plan. Producers will need to provide Oregon with their 2024 data. That data will then go through a analysis and validation period where, um, you know, since it's the first time that we're having producers roll out this data, we know it'll take, it'll need a little cleanup. um, Once we have that data, the fees will be calculated based off that initial information, and then the program will be set to go live in July of 2025. During the summer months of 25, we going through kind of the same process with California and Colorado, getting producers ready for a potential reporting date in August 31st of 25, with a similar review of the data, followed by fee schedules being announced, and then the programs launching for Colorado tentatively in January of 26 and California January of 27. So next steps. Um, these are topics we've touched on earlier, but want to reiterate. Colorado law did require registration by October 1st of 24. CAA is required to provide lists of registered producers to the state regulatory agencies. Each of these laws do have enforcement mechanisms, so state regulators can take enforcement actions against non-compliant producers. Registration with CAA in all the states where you're obligated gives you access to the regulatory updates, educational resources, and support for data preparation and reporting. The more people we get registered and reporting gets better data quality that helps us set accurate and uh, fee schedules and reduce free riders in our system. The registration form is available on on CAA's website. And again, there is no fee for registration at this time, and registrations can always be amended or canceled. So, ways to stay engaged. So, the Producer Resource Center, this is available to everybody. It's on our website, provides various resources, frequently asked questions, guidance documents, monthly newsletter. You can sign up for that. We publish all kind of regulatory updates, any important news that you need to know about EPR. Producer onboardings, again, as I mentioned, we do these every week. They're open to all producers, uh, legal counsel, and trade associations. Producer working groups, these are, again, for registered producers. So it's a benefit to being registered as you can get to the producer working groups where we do deep dives on kind of hot topics. So next one of those is coming up here on December 17th. And then reporting Q&As. These are sessions designed specifically for reporting. We know a lot of people have questions since we've never done this type of reporting before, so everybody's learning as we go. Again, these are open to registered producers, legal counsel, and trade associations. So another great reason to get registered with CAA. And thanks for uh, listening to me here. So let's jump into some questions. I know there's definitely going to be a lot of them, and let's see what we got.